I mean, it was clear to me that the administration at Columbia and most members of the faculty believe passionately in diversity, equity, inclusion, and the right to hurt Jews. That's what I saw. Isn't that what you saw?
I saw.
Now, Governor Walz says, I knew nothing about this, man. It's news to me. And he said, in fact, I'm taking some bold steps. He said, at first, I'm not going to run for a third term. I guess he needs more time. Hope he uses the time to prepare his defense, because he's got a lot to defend here. He knew what was going on.
The hearing begins with a sharp and controversial observation about events at Columbia University. A senator describes what he believes he witnessed: a campus culture publicly devoted to diversity, equity, and inclusion, yet allegedly tolerant of hostility toward Jewish students. His remarks immediately set the tone: direct, confrontational, and unapologetic. The exchange suggests deep frustration over how university leadership handled protests and rhetoric that many viewed as anti-Semitic. As the clip unfolds, the broader political implications emerge, including references to Governor Tim Walz distancing himself from related controversies. What begins as a campus dispute quickly expands into a wider debate about accountability, leadership, and political responsibility.
Ms. Solomon, I want to be sure I understand your testimony. Did I understand you to testify that anti-Semitism is worse under the Trump administration?
Senator, thank you for your question.
You don't have to thank me.
Okay.
Your best thanks is to answer.
Okay, well, I'll tell you that anti-Semitism has been rising, especially since the 2017
but has the
Charlottesville
Trump administration
attack.
caused that? Is that your testimony?
I wouldn't say the Trump administration has caused anti-Semitism. Has there been an increase since Trump has entered office? Yes.
Do you see a causal connection there?
Yes.
Why?
Trump has highlighted and platformed neo-Nazis and white supremacists.
Okay. I can't see that far. I understood you to say that in answer to Senator Durbin's question, the spending reductions.
As the discussion intensifies, attention shifts to a tense Senate exchange involving Senator John Kennedy and a university witness. Kennedy challenges testimony suggesting that anti-Semitism worsened during the Trump administration. The witness carefully distinguishes correlation from causation, acknowledging an increase while resisting direct blame. Kennedy presses further, questioning whether rhetoric from national leaders created a permissive atmosphere for extremists. The exchange reflects a broader national divide over responsibility for rising campus tensions. Funding, political messaging, and institutional oversight are all brought into focus. What unfolds is not merely a policy dispute, but a collision between competing narratives about cause, consequence, and public accountability.
Reducing the federal budget would increase anti-Semitism. Isn't that what you said?
No, I did not. I said that the constant threats to cut money to the Office for Civil Rights and the Department of Education prevents the federal government from adequately investigating anti-Semitism and other hate crimes on college campuses.
So you think one way to stop anti-Semitism is to give people more money? Is that right?
I think one of the ways is to actually fund people that are actually designed to investigate anti-Semitism on college campuses.
What's there to investigate? We see it.
We
saw it. Did you watch television? Did you see what happened at Columbia?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it was clear to me that the administration at Columbia and most members of the faculty believe passionately in diversity, equity, inclusion, and the right to hurt Jews. That's what I saw. Isn't that what you saw?
I saw.
Isn't that what you saw?
The debate then turns to federal funding and the role of government agencies in combating anti-Semitism. A witness argues that threats to reduce funding for the Office for Civil Rights limit the federal government's ability to investigate hate incidents effectively. Kennedy challenges the logic, questioning whether increased spending is truly the solution. He references widely broadcast campus protests, suggesting that visible misconduct requires moral clarity rather than bureaucratic expansion. Columbia's historical controversies are also invoked, reinforcing the seriousness of the accusations. Beneath the exchange lies a fundamental question. Is the crisis rooted in insufficient enforcement, or in the ideological climate shaping today's campuses?
I saw protesters against the war in Gaza and them using some anti-Semitic slogans and thoughts. I would say, however, that it's hard. I would say,
isn't that
however,
what you're telling me?
that
That's
it's
not what
difficult
you saw.
For
You're
the federal
now don't get off
government
the
to invest-
subject
No, I'm
on me
not.
now.
I'm
You're telling me that's
difficult.
not what you saw.
I'm telling you that it is difficult for the federal government to adequately address the issue of anti-Semitism.
Are you telling
without
me
appropriate
the
resources.
Columbia administration and the faculty was supportive of the Jewish community?
I think that they are
You
trying
need to
find
stop dipping into your ketamine stash.
into what? Excuse me?
Now, that if we're going to solve this problem, we need to talk about it.
I'm
And
happy
it
to
wasn't
talk
just
about
at Columbia. It was at Berkeley. It was at UCLA. It was at Barnard. And Columbia has a history of discriminating against Jewish people. They used to refuse to let Jewish students come to their university. Now, you can try to bubble wrap this, but that's what I saw. If you want to stop a lot of the anti-Semitism, maybe we need to stop teaching kids to be anti-Semitic.
Sir, I would relish that opportunity.
Let me ask you a question.
As the conversation progresses, the focus broadens beyond campus unrest to cultural responsibility. Kennedy proposes a distinction between supporting Palestinian humanitarian concerns and expressing hostility toward Jewish communities. A witness agrees that compassion and hatred are not mutually exclusive. The hearing briefly references legal defenses in unrelated cases, illustrating how institutional inaction can embolden misconduct. The metaphor of a cookie jar repeatedly refilled despite warning signs highlights perceived systemic negligence. The implication is clear: when authorities fail to act decisively, harmful behavior can multiply. The discussion increasingly frames anti-Semitism not simply as spontaneous outrage, but as a failure of institutional resolve.
Question, Ms. Kohab, did I say that right?
Kohav.
Do you think it's possible to feel compassion for the Palestinian people without hating Jews?
Absolutely.
In fact, one of the lawyers representing one of the thieves in this case said many of the people, this was their excuse, said many of the people involved in the stealing thought that the state was okay with it. That's what he said. Here's his quote. No one was doing anything about the red flags. Red flags were everywhere. Nobody in state government, he said, was doing anything about the red flags. It was like someone was stealing money from the cookie jar and they kept refilling it. The state knew. And at one point,
The narrative then pivots to Minnesota, where allegations of fraud intersect with political caution. Emails presented during trial proceedings allegedly warned state officials that withholding funds from minority-owned organizations could trigger accusations of racism. According to testimony cited in the hearing, threats of lawsuits and public backlash discouraged decisive action. Governor Tim Walz and state agencies are portrayed as hesitating amid mounting red flags. A former fraud investigator reportedly suggested that political considerations influenced enforcement decisions. The controversy raises uncomfortable questions about balancing equity initiatives with oversight obligations, and whether fear of reputational damage can undermine fiscal accountability.
Governor Walz and some of his agencies said, whoa, maybe we ought to put a stop to this. And they backed off. They said no more money for a while. Well, fresh hell broke loose. You know what happened? The largest, most powerful, fictitious company, run mostly by people of Somali ancestry, sent an email to the Minnesota state government. And they said that the state agency that was failing to promptly approve new applications and give us new money from, quote, minority-owned businesses, close quote, was going to result in a lawsuit featuring accusations.
As details surface, the debate centers on political calculation versus principled governance. The former investigator quoted in report suggests that elected officials were reluctant to pursue aggressive investigations due to concerns about alienating a key voting bloc. Such claims amplify the seriousness of the accusations, implying that electoral strategy may have outweighed transparency. Meanwhile, critics argue that campus unrest and alleged financial misconduct share a common thread, institutions hesitant to confront uncomfortable realities. The hearing atmosphere reflects broader public frustration. For many observers, the issue is no longer isolated incidents, but a perceived pattern of avoidance within powerful establishments.
Of racism that would be sprawled across the news. If you don't give us our money, we're going to call you racist. They did it. It's all come out in evidence at trial. In fact, a lady by the name of Kaysa Megan, she's one of the good guys. She is a Somali American who used to work as a fraud investigator in the Attorney General's office, who, by the way, was just as involved as Governor Walz in turning a blind eye to all this. She says, and she said it to
In its closing moments, the documentary perspective shifts from confrontation to reflection. The hearing is portrayed as a clash between ideological frameworks, diversity and inclusion on one side, accountability and common sense on the other. Critics argue that well-intended policies may have unintentionally enabled hostility or negligence. Supporters counter that systemic issues require thoughtful, well-funded responses rather than rhetoric. Senator Kennedy's blunt style resonates with some Americans who feel unheard in cultural debates. Whether seen as courageous or excessive, the exchange underscores a nation grappling with identity, responsibility, and trust in its institutions. The questions raised remain unresolved, echoing far beyond the hearing room.
In the newspaper, she said that elected officials, and particularly those who are part of the state's Democratic-led administration, were reluctant to take more assertive action in response to the allegations. Why? Here's her quote. "There is a perception that forcefully tackling this issue might cause political backlash from the Somali community, which is a core voting bloc for Democrats." And she is among the few among many prominent figures in the Somali community who is speaking out.